Funke, you've just done most of my job for me, which is fabulous. So, I'd like you, on that basis, to raise your hand, please, if it's important, bearing in mind what we've just heard, for you to be happy and healthy. Well, that was nicely primed, wasn't it? But my question also to you is it also important to you for those that you know and love to be happy and healthy too? Raise your hand. Give me a little wave. Little girly wave. That just makes me feel better, Annie. That's nothing to do with anything. It just makes me feel better. Okay, well, I know that I'm in a room of very beautiful, talented entrepreneurs. Am I right? Yes. You don't sound sure. I think you are. But because you're entrepreneurial, if you're anything like me, potentially there are some things that maybe you're not paying so much attention to. So whether that's in terms of your work-life balance. I know that if you're striving to get your message out to the world, that maybe you've taken your eye off creating enough time for yourself. Or perhaps it's in terms of your relationships. Maybe those are suffering because you're so focused on what you're doing. Or it could be that financially, that's where you're struggling. So maybe you're trying to run a new business and you're still stuck in a job. And you can't give of yourself because you're too busy working for somebody else. Or indeed, maybe it is your health. Maybe there are some things showing up for you. So maybe things are getting a bit slower. Maybe they're getting a bit wider. Maybe they're getting a bit more difficult, a bit more challenging. Or perhaps you're even having some more serious health issues. And that's a concern to you, and maybe you're worried for your future because you don't really know where this is going. Or maybe it's not you, but it's maybe somebody that you love, and you would like to have some information about how you could help them. But imagine instead, if every day was much easier for you, every day you feel like you did in your 30s or even in your 20s. You've got your life sorted so that you've got this wonderful work-life balance. You've found a way to leverage your time and your money so that you can do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, and wherever you want. And not only that, you found a purpose in your life so that you can contribute, so that you feel that you're being useful to the world and that you're able to leave your legacy. Now, does that sound like a good option for you? Yes or no?
Yes.
That was the interactive part of my talk. I just need you to, you see, if I talk very quickly, I know that. So if I ask you a question, because I've got to get on with it, would you mind? If I ask a question, would you mind just saying, is that okay? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that I know you understand. Thank you, young man. Excellent. So, if you're here now and you want to be here, does it make sense to you that you might need to change some things? Funke's already. Yes. It makes some sense, doesn't it? So what am I here to talk to you about specifically? Well, you know that I'm here to talk to you about your health because I've referred to it. But actually, more importantly, I'm here to talk to you about your heart. Not only the heart that beats inside you 350 million times in a lifetime, but also the heart that you have to give to the world. The heart where you're actually being and doing the things that you want to do, that you're meant to be here, that you're fulfilling your purpose and you're sharing your passion. So why is that important? Why is it important for you to do that? Well, if you are building a business or if you've got a lesson or some information to share, then you've made a promise, haven't you? Raise your hand if you're a mother in this room or an auntie or you're a grandmother. Okay, so as a woman or a gentleman, we do have gentlemen here, you have made a promise, haven't you? You've made a promise that you're going to nurture those children or that you're going to nurture your clients. And you've made a promise that you're going to give them your all so that they can achieve their dreams and their passions and their goals or whatever it is. Would you agree with me? Raise your hand if you understand what I mean, please. So it's really more importantly that you look after your physical heart. Now, why would I say that? Well, you see, we've got lots of people in this room that are very passionate about mindset, about empowerment, and I love all of those things too. But we've just agreed, apart from one lady in here, that actually health is more important than wealth. And the key to that is looking after your heart, because you see, heart disease kills 1 in 2 people in the Western world today. So if you just take a look to the person to your left, if that's not, or you're right, if that's not them, then it might be you. And heart disease accounts for more deaths than the next 7 reasons for death combined. And heart disease encompasses all sorts of things, including heart attacks. You've heard of heart attacks, yeah? Okay, so, I know there's about 30 of us in this room. Only 7 people survive their first heart attack. So that means if there's 30 people in here, 9 of us will die of our first heart attack. And what's scary about that is that heart disease is known as the silent killer, because there is no warning. Have you ever had a situation where you've known somebody and somebody you know, or they seem fit and they've died, and you think, oh, gosh, that was a surprise. That was a surprise. You've had that?
Yeah. Actually, he was 30. He had a heart attack at the age of 28.
28.
Yes, and he survived. And at the age of 33, he had another heart attack. They took him to hospital in emergency. Hospital put him on hold for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, when they put him on stretcher, he was already finished.
And what's really important that you understand on top of all of that, because we are in a room of women here, is that, ladies, we are protected by heart disease because of our female hormones. Okay? Until we get to about 50, when we are postmenopausal, and then we catch up with the men in terms of our risk, but actually what's more important is we overtake them. So the rates of death from heart attack or cardiovascular disease is 53% for women and 47% for men. Raise your hand if you're surprised at that, please. Yeah, I was surprised at that too, because as women, we tend to think of, oh, it's breast cancer, or it's ovarian cancer, it's those kind of things that are going to kill us, don't we? Would you agree? But actually, you are more risk on heart disease. So you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute. Why are the heart disease rates going up? Well, Fulke has almost already referred to some of the reasons for why heart disease is going up. Despite all the reasons, all the facts that we've got so much science now, we've got all this amazing intervention, we've got the drug therapies, we've got all the scientific studies, heart disease is going up because the disease megatrends of the 21st century are also going up. And those are obesity, diabetes, autoimmune disease, cancer. 1 in 3 people in the UK are clinically obese today. That's scary enough. What's really scary is that 1 in 4 of our 13 to 16-year-olds are also clinically obese. And unfortunately, that's a higher rate for ladies, for girls, than it is for boys. And that's having a massive impact on their hormonal health. I don't have time to go into that today. So now's a really important time to do this. Because as an entrepreneur, as a woman, or a gentleman, and if you've made a promise to your family, to your clients, whoever it is, you can either decide to be a really good example or a really horrible warning. Catherine Aird said that. She's an author. You might like to write it down. In this life, you can either be a good example or you can be a horrible warning. Now, why is that so important to me? Well, I'd like to tell you why. And I'm going to do that by sharing my story with you. So I'd like to take you back to November, one very cold November morning. You know, November mornings are really horrible and miserable, aren't they? And if you're with me on this November morning, I'm sitting in a room, a small room, with a lady opposite me who has very short, spiky hair, glasses around a bead around her neck, and she has a blue nurse's uniform. Well, Jim, your results aren't good. You definitely got protein in your sample. and we got your results back. You've got high cholesterol, your other blood results aren't very good, and you've put on quite a lot of weight since you were here last. What on earth is going on? Oh, well, Dawn, I've had just the most stressful summer. It's been awful, actually. My dad's, his dementia's getting worse. My daughter's struggling to settle into the 6th form, which is really a surprise. I've had a terrible time, just all through the summer, but it's work, really. That woman I work for, how long have you known me? 20 years? I'm not like this. I call her Miss Management, as you know. She's like Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde. I never know where I am. The team's all upset. They're on the phone to me. I'm not sleeping. My hormones are all over the shop. Actually, I'm feeling a bit low. Okay, Jill, well, look, I'm actually going to make you an appointment with the doctor this afternoon because I think, I can give you antibiotics, but I think you need perhaps a little bit more help. Maybe in terms of some antidepressants or some counselling. Tell me, have you had any thoughts of harming yourself? What? What? Oh my God. Why would she ask me that question? Have you ever been in a situation where somebody said something to you and you think, you don't know me?
Yeah.
How could you get me so wrong? What a ridiculous thing to say. But you see, that weekend, I had a lot of thinking to do. And I was looking back. Have you heard the expression, looking back in hindsight? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yeah. And when I looked back over the previous 2 years, I could see that the stress and the upset that had happened to me largely through my work had got me to this point on this November morning. So I had a decision to make, didn't I? Yeah. So on the Tuesday, I resigned from my job. Happy days. And I phoned my lovely friend Sarah, who is a Pilates teacher and a health coach. My Pilates teacher, she's known me for 13 years. She said, oh, thank goodness for that. It's about time you did that. I've been watching you get worse and worse and worse. Why don't you come to our health talk next week, right up your street? I know I've been inviting you for 2 years and you haven't come, but you're going to come this time, aren't you? So, the following Thursday, you'll find me in a room actually about like this, except it had dark wood panellings in a very posh hotel in Stamford. Dark wood panelling, but there was a PowerPoint at the front with a little lady with very short, dark hair, little elfin face, one of those women that can wear their hair short. And she was one of the premier naturopaths in the country. And she was talking about how your gut health affects your overall health. That 90% of your health is in your gut. And in that moment, I suddenly realised, do you remember I was looking back in hindsight? Remember that? I realised in that moment that there was something that had happened to me that was so catastrophic in the summer of that year that was what tipped me over the edge of all that stress. It'd been building up and I'd been ignoring it. My friend told me about it, but I thought I was Superwoman. I thought I knew better. And that incident happened in the June of that year. So if you were with me in the June, we're sitting in a white room. Yeah, it's very quiet. But outside, there are telephones ringing off the hook all the time. And in walks this young man with a dark, very long beard, glasses, a white coat, and a stethoscope around his neck. Mrs. Barham, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. We've got a diagnosis for Matthew now. He's got epiglottitis, and I'm really sorry it's taken us so many weeks to find out what's wrong with him. I know you've had several visits into us, and it's been very stressful for you, but he's on the right medication now, and he's going to be with us for a few days, but then we're going to send him home. And I'm really sorry it's taken so long for you to get this diagnosis, but you see, we normally see epiglottitis in the very young or the very old. We're not looking at it in your 20-year-old, 15-stone, rugby-playing student son. Well, to be honest with you, after all these weeks of worry, all I could feel was relieved. And Matthew, have you ever been in that situation where you've got something wrong, you just want a diagnosis, don't you? You just want somebody to tell you what's going on. So I left the hospital knowing that finally we knew what was going on, that Matthew was going to be fine. And I went home and I did what every normal person would do. I looked it up on Google. Ever done that?
Yeah.
Made me feel a lot worse. Because in that moment, what I saw was the epiglottis, which is, you've got a little flap at the top of your, yeah, you know where that is? If that swells, it cuts off the air supply. Dead boy. Dead boy. And actually the hair's on the back of my head now, because I remember that journey into that last journey into hospital 2 days before. I think I should have called an ambulance. I don't think I'm going to get in there in time. I wonder if I could remember how to do a tracheotomy. Have you been in a situation where you know that you need to help somebody but you're not really sure what you can do? It's really scary, isn't it? So, coming back to the evening, what was really interesting was that all through this time in hospital, I kept saying to everybody, my son's got irritable bowel syndrome. Do you think that's got anything to do with, what's going on? No, nobody listened to me. Nobody listened to me. Because here, we were in the ear, nose and throat department. We weren't in the gastroenterology department, were we? So they weren't looking at my son holistically. So that light bulb moment, that night when I was sitting in front of that naturopath, when I realised that my gut reaction, we all say that, don't we? My gut reaction was right, that I knew that Matthew's condition preempted this very serious condition that he had. And in that moment, that was when I decided, I have to do something about this. I have to learn how to keep my son safe, and I also need to learn how to keep myself safe. So from there, what I've done is, I've kind of made it my life's passion, really, to now help thousands of people all over the world. I've trained as a functional nutritionist. I'm a Pilates teacher now, and I have written, co-authored 2 books. This is my new book, which is coming out very soon, which you can visit my website for. I'm on a couple of radio shows, I've written magazine articles and events like this, and last week I was awarded an International Speakers Award. So why do I tell you all of that? I'm telling you all of that because through all of this time, years ago I had my own business and I did a huge amount of personal development in those days too. So I've been able to combine that with my nursing experience, because I trained as a nurse too. And with all of that put together, I've put together a program where now I help my clients. I haven't got time to tell you very much about it today, but I'm just going to give you the top line, if that's okay with you. And I've developed a 5-part system that I've identified can help you live the life that Funke is talking about. So this is a practical way for my clients to actually go through an online program or a workshop or whatever it is, to be able to work with me to be able to achieve this life that we want. Because what I'm talking about here is well-being. You've heard of the expression well-being? Yeah. So well-being is defined as having a balance or enjoying a sense of health, happiness and prosperity. So raise your hand please if you know people that are wealthy but they're not necessarily happy. Yeah. Raise your hand if you know people that are healthy, wealthy, but they're not necessarily healthy. Yeah, okay. So well-being is having a sense of all of that. So this program covers all of that. So the first thing we need to do is to prepare. Because unless you understand how to prepare for this journey that you're going to take from where you are now to where you want to be, you're always going to be stuck in the limiting amount of information that you've got here. And as Funke says, it's all about education. So this first section is all about preparing you for your journey, educating my clients as to why they are where they are at that particular time. The second one is prevent, because you see, I believe that prevention is better than cure. Raise your hand if you agree with me, please. We live in a world where the NHS in this country is great, isn't it? The NHS treats 1 million people every 36 hours. 1 million people every 36 hours. I was watching the television yesterday, and the population of London is growing by 100,000 every year. We know that our NHS is struggling, and that's because the majority of people, now I know that's not you, rely on getting ill and the NHS fixing them. And this is the world that we live in. So prevention is the second. Rely on getting ill and the NHS fixing them. And this is the world that we live in. So prevention is the second part, prosperity. And we've referred to this already. Funke gave me a wonderful segue into this. Thank you, Funke. So basically, in order to be healthy, the majority of us need to have the resources to be able to do that. Would you agree with me? What do you think? Yes or no? Yeah. It actually costs a little bit of money to be wealthy. And in my program, not only do I concentrate on how to prosper in terms of what you want to do with your career, but I also give my clients the opportunity to work with me so that they can pay for their nutrition, so that they can pay to be healthy. Does that make sense? Raise your hand, please. Cool. The fourth thing, and there isn't any self-development program, there isn't any lifestyle program, and Tosin talked about this earlier, that doesn't establish your purpose. Because without having a purpose, without knowing where you are, you're never going to get to where you need to go. And my program also, this is the icing on the cake. This is the difference between you going to the doctors and them saying, well, you need statins, and 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 you need statins, or metformin, or whatever it is, and treating us all like some sort of herd. Yeah? Is that familiar to you? You get 10 minutes at the doctor's if you're lucky, don't you? Yeah, and you're only allowed to talk about 2 things nowadays. Don't come to me with a list. And with the clients that I work with, we actually dig down deep and we perfect the way that I help them to achieve good health. So there are 5 systems. The Healthy Starter Program does what it says on the tin. I am a bit excited about this bit at the moment because if you know anything about health, and particularly if you now know my story, 90% of you is genetic. Sorry. 10% of you is genes, 90% of you is to do with your microbiome. Ooh, that's a big word. That's your gut flora and any bacteria and everything that's on your skin. And this is really exciting because when you learn to reset your microbiome, this helps you to prepare for the journey that you're going to take from here to here. So it's got to start there. It's got to start with what is it about your life and our stressful lives in the 21st century that is making us all fat, sick and tired? Yeah. And what are we going to do about it? The second one is the Easy Energy Elevator. So this is all about the 3 easy ways in which you need to take care of yourself to prevent illness. The Advanced Success Solution talks about that prosperity and how you can develop the income that you need that is relevant to you so that you can do what you want, be where you want, with who you want, whenever you want. The rapid realignment process, we very often start with this because in order to make that journey. So can you imagine, have you ever been in a car and anybody got a sat nav, or do you use your Google Maps nowadays, yeah? So would it be ridiculous, would you agree with me, if you, well, so I'm going to Liverpool, but I'm not actually putting in the coordinates of where I'm starting? That would be madness, wouldn't it? Because you can't, you may get there eventually, but actually you may not. So the rapid realignment process actually looks at where we're starting from so that we can make the journey. And finally, this is the bit about you, and particularly for women, because there's a massive bit in here about hormones, the total body blueprint. By the way, guys, you have hormones too. The total body blueprint actually looks at down deep into things like blood sugar issues, hormones, and about building health, because you see, I believe that we should stop treating symptoms and instead we should start building good health. You might want to write that down. We should stop treating symptoms, instead we should start building good health. And I call this the Your Heart Matters program. It's an online course, I'm starting one in a few weeks. I'm not here to tell you anymore, but you will have my website, and all the details about this program is on that website. But what I am going to do today is I'm going to dig down into the Essential Energy Elevator. Now, Anna, I think, talked about the importance of water, didn't she? Okay? So, you might know that, did I mention I'm a Pilates teacher now? I think I did, yeah. So as a Pilates teacher, I see an awful lot of people with back pain. Raise your hand if you have back pain or if you know somebody with back pain. Yeah. Okay, one of the biggest reasons for people coming to me with back pain is simply because they do not drink enough water in a day. Okay, so your spine is made up of all of these vertebrae that look like this. Yeah? So you've got all these vertebrae up your back. Is this familiar to you? And you've got these bits that stick out, the bits that you can feel here called the spinous process. And basically your spine runs pretty much down the centre of your body. And in between each of these vertebrae, you've got these little discs. Have you heard of these? Intervertebral discs, little cushions. Okay. So I need to demonstrate this. Is there somebody that could be a volunteer? Is there somebody willing to be a volunteer for me, please? Come on, girl. She's up, down like a yo-yo today, isn't she? So I know this is Mary. Mary, give Mary a round of applause. Okay, Mary, I'm going to touch you. Is that okay?
No problem.
You've got no problem. That's good. I probably should have warned you about that. Okay, so Mary, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put your hands here, please. And I'd like you just to turn around and look that way. But I'd like you to keep your hips forwards. So just turn and look over that way. No, I like you.
Okay. Like this?
Yeah, like that. And then I'd like you to slowly, please, to turn and look the other way. Yeah? Okay, are you watching? Yeah. Right, okay. Now, Mary, what we're going to do, put your hands down for a minute. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have your feet a bit more hip width apart and parallel. Okay, bend your knees, just soften your knees slightly. And I'd like to imagine that you've kind of got a bit of a weight just hanging off the bottom of your dress there. It's just tucking it in under. And then I'd like you to really think about being super tall, as if you've got some helium balloons pulling you so that you're very long. Oh, no. Bend your knees, bend your knees, bend your knees. Okay, now stay where you are. Can you feel that these muscles are working now to keep you upright?
Yeah.
Don't nod. Good girl. Okay, now put your hands back where they are. Right, now very slowly and gently, I'd like you to turn and look to the right. That's the left. All the way around your body as well, top, not just your head, your body. Yeah. And the other way. No, that's just your head. Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to turn this way and then this way. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Excellent. So do it just as you did before. Just turn one way and then look the other way. Yeah. And then the other way. Right. Okay. Now stand up really tall for me. And I'd like you to do it again. Oh, there we go. Okay. So what's happening, because I can see it, is that she's got much more movement. If your spine is collapsed like this, okay, you're not going to be able to get very far. But if you are nicely elevated, can you see how much further I can get? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so there. And that's because I've elongated and I've opened up the spaces in the vertebrae. Is this making sense to you? Raise your hand if it's making sense. Now, if you are dehydrated, so if you don't have that 60% amount of water in your intervertebral disc, guess what happens? It does that. And this causes back pain and it causes immobility, which is why you see people as they get older do this. And when they talk to you, they go, yes. Don't they? You know, they don't turn and talk to you, they go, yes. Okay, so let's thank Mary. Thank you very much. Oh, Mary. Should we give her something? Should we give her something? Toasting gave something away, so it's not my time. Okay, so you see my book here? Oh, it's not there. The Heart of a Woman.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a free copy. Actually, you all get free copies of my book if you go onto the page, if you pre-order them. But I'm going to give you 20 copies with a special code.
Okay.
And then when you send people to buy those, I'm going to give you £10 each for each copy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one last thing to share with you. Oh, I have time. Happy days. Okay, so the second F in the Easy Energy Elevator is all to do with function. So raise your hand if you have a car or you've ever been in a car. Most of you. Have you ever seen those dash lights, you know, the things on the dashboard that flash up and down? Dash lights? So they're warning lights, aren't they? Yeah. So when the warning light comes on, it says things like, well, you've run out of water, or you need to top up your water thing, or you've run out of fuel, or you need more oil, or you need to pump your tyres up. I'm not very technical with cars, as you can see. But you understand what I mean? Okay, now your body is the same. Your body has a dashboard that sends out messages to you all the time and says, pay attention to me because I need you to do something. Do you remember over here when I was, in hindsight, I was looking back at these 2 years? Do you remember that? I had lots of warning lights for 2 years that led me to that point that I was ignoring. So are you ignoring your flashing lights? I was listening to the radio the other day, and there was a guy on that said he puts a sock in front of his dashboard so he can't see his flashing lights. That's a bit crazy, isn't it? Are you putting a sock in front of your dashboard? Because this is how your body functions. It tells you, it says, I've got a headache. Okay, so have some water. I've got a headache. Oh, now I've got a pain in my knee. Oh, now I've got, I'm feeling out of breath, or whatever it is. Those are your flashing lights. And your flashing lights will be different to your flashing lights. And it's about education. As Funke says, it's about educating yourself and listening to your body. So this is the slide I'm going to leave you with. This is a bit scary. So, you all look amazing from the outside. But this is your artery. So if you could do this for me, can you all do this? Josephine, can you do this as well? So this is your lovely artery when you're 20. Is there anybody here that is 20, by the way? Yeah. So your blood vessels look like this, and they are lovely and open, and they are the walls are lovely and smooth, and the blood flows down it so that it can take nutrients and oxygen to the bits that you need it to get to, and it can take away all the rubbish out of the cells and the organs so that it can be excreted. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, look what happens as we get older. This is you in your 20s. As you grow older, and we all have arteriosclerosis, this is what happens. Gentlemen, this is the rate that you develop arteriosclerosis. Ladies, we're a bit protected, but we catch up with them here. Do you remember I said that? Yeah. Okay. So by the time you get to here, do this again. Now your blood vessels look like this. Now, do you remember I said to you that 1 in 2 people die of cardiovascular disease? Do you remember that? Yes. Truth of it is, we all have cardiovascular disease. And we all have it because of our 21st century living, the things that Funke is related to. The way that we live our stressful lives. Our bodies were not meant to be in this world. 50 years ago, our mothers, our grandmothers did not lead the lives that we lead, did they? It doesn't matter whether you're in this country or abroad. We're now all trying to be superwoman. Do you remember I was being superwoman? We're all getting, all men, we all have the stresses of everyday life, but we've also got the stresses of our toxic world. And part of the program is to help you to understand, and help my clients understand, what that toxic world is doing to us and how we can avoid those toxins. So what happens with this build-up of plaque here is that it causes inflammation. So inflammation is the root of all disease. And what happens is the blood pressure gets up. It's a bit like putting your finger over the top of your hose. Yeah? Yeah, put your finger over the top of the hose, the water comes out, harder, doesn't it? This is what's happening in your body now. High blood pressure in and of itself is the most important cause of cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular accident. What do I mean by that? So if you have a blood clot, so if this is the start of a blood clot, can you see this? So that could be a clot or it could be a bit of cholesterol. If that cholesterol travels to the heart, then you have a heart attack. If that cholesterol travels to the brain, then you have a stroke. And if that travels to the lungs, then you have a pulmonary embolism. And what I didn't tell you about this day in November, this is my last thing to tell you. When the doctor was talking to me about all the things that were wrong with me, by the time my mother was 50, she had high blood pressure, she had high cholesterol, she was overweight, she had depression, she was agoraphobic, she tried to kill herself. She had a very stressful life, but not in the way I did. She had a stressful life with my father. And she developed cancer too. And at 56,